Did you know that missing just one document could cause a nursing home Medicaid application to be denied in Florida? I'm Kellen Bryant, board-certified elder law attorney by the Florida Bar. I've helped thousands of families become Medicaid eligible, get approved the application process, even if there's assets. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through the most common documents Florida Medicaid requires for nursing home application and how to avoid the key mistakes that causes delays and denials. Let's get into it. Is it true that if you just miss one document, Medicaid will be denied? Here's an example of a case that was recently denied, and it says in the notice of case action, this is how the Medicaid decides cases. It says, we've got your application is denied because we didn't receive all the information needed to determine Medicaid eligibility. And then it cites this law. And in the law it cites, it says it right here. If the applicant does not or fails to submit the required documentation or verification is the word that Department of Children and Family uses for bringing the documentation to back up your application information. The department will deny the application because it cannot establish Medicaid eligibility. So the fact that I have this notice of case action denying for one of my cases, does that make me not capable of doing this? No, because this is the number one thing that the caseworkers use to deny Medicaid applications. And so the usual dance that we go through in our office is we'll get this notice of case action. You didn't provide the information. We have to go through this dance that says, what specifically did we not provide? And so they hide the ball here. So they'll say, oh, you didn't provide the November credit card statement of the Discover card. And then we say, yes, we did. Here's the proof. And then the case gets approved. Or they find something new and you repeat the process. And so what they're looking for is, generally speaking, at least this is how this feels from my side, is they're looking for one document, one reason to issue this denial, comes off their plate or it moves up the chain of command. Then we have to sort out the document exchange process. So what documents need to be provided? Here's an example of a written Florida Medicaid application. Inside this written application, there is a couple of things that Florida Medicaid DCF does to make sure we fully disclose all the financial information. So first off, we consent. If we have any information that's incorrect, you may be subject to criminal prosecution and disqualification for providing incorrect or false information or knowingly hiding information. So a lot of people will ask, how do they figure this out? Florida Department of Children and Families does have data exchange programs between the federal government. They have and then also there needs to be a financial release side as part of the Medicaid application so that the caseworkers in DCF can peer into your account information, your financial information. What they're doing is they're matching it to the information that you provide, and it also creates another layer of argument, essentially, to reconcile all the information. And so Florida Medicaid application, you will see questions pertaining to assets and insurance and income. So the issue with this is you get this laundry list. Hey, do you have any of these assets? And if yes, you need to list it below. And there's not enough spaces a lot of times because the form presupposes that you have just 4 accounts and 4 assets. When in reality, most clients that I'll get with have multiple CDs, multiple savings accounts, a 401k, an IRA, a loan here, a property there. There's not enough space. And that's where, after you file the application, the real work comes into play. And then here's another key piece about financial information and the documents needed. It asks here, have you closed any bank accounts or closed any accounts or added anyone to a titled asset, given away money, liquidated money in the last 5 years? Answer, yes. There's only one space for that. And again, that's where the challenge comes. And then for income, they're wanting income of all sources, and they want us to prove the income. So inside the Florida Medicaid application, if you look at it, it seems pretty simple, but there's no telling how much financial information that, not everyone's the same. And if you understand by watching the other videos in this channel that there's asset rules and you can qualify even if you're what is considered middle class, not completely destitute. There's ways that the rules are set up to protect the middle class. The application itself doesn't fully cover all the potential financials that is needed. What I have is our general Medicaid homework list. A lot of different Medicaid providers will have different forms of this. Here's ours. The link will be pinned to this document, will be pinned in the comments to obtain it. And also there will be a link inside the document that has me working through every single specific thing in this document. So if you want to download that, go ahead. It'll be helpful in a Florida Medicaid application. I'll walk you through everything. But the basics, as you'll see, it is to back up what is found on the application. Health insurance information, IDs, premium information is hard to get. Income statements, also hard to get because most people throw it away and then you have to go get it for a person who's maybe diminishing in their abilities and capabilities. Bank statements, cash value letters is also very commonly difficult to obtain. Closing the accounts. When you close an account, generally people will ball up, throw away, shred. We need it for a Medicaid application. And then the other difficulty is any written explanations about account movement, anything over $500, because what they're looking for is have you transferred or given anything away. So one main mistake here is people will not properly control their loved one's account through a power of attorney or joint account ownership. And they'll do things with Cash App or Venmo, and they start moving accounts. And it basically makes the caseworker and us and you forensic accountants trying to track and find the money, because Medicaid wants to say, they look at the account, you've been giving money away, let's deny the application. So also, depending on the case, we need home expenses and we need the legal documents associated with the common legal documents, such as power of attorney, any kind of trust you may have. So those are the documents needed for a Medicaid application. Now that we've gone through the process, the general framework about the documents that DCF's going to require, we'll go through some frequently asked questions, help you avoid mistakes or problems in the future. One mistake is having too many accounts and not tracking the closure. And the problem is you need to get ahead of this before you're having any conversation about filing Medicaid application, unless you want to feel crazy. So the idea, if you're watching this because you're worried about a parent who is declining, is to work on getting a power of attorney and getting the accounts organized. And as you're closing the accounts, getting proof of closure of each account number. The second mistake I've already referenced is with that power of attorney, you need to control the accounts appropriately and not move money through logins, online applications, and so forth. You need to have, for all expenses over $500, don't play games with this, but most expenses over $500, you need to have them documented, whether it's through a contract, invoice, payment slip, receipt, and so forth. Anytime we're filing a Medicaid application, we're providing documents. You want proof that you submitted the documents to DCF. Very commonly, they'll say they did not receive the document, and you need to have proof, whether it's fax confirmation sheet or proof of upload showing that you've actually submitted the document, because that is the caseworker's favorite way to deny cases. The other way to get ahead of these problems is to hire a Medicaid planning attorney who has filed for Medicaid and dealt with this process A to Z. Because the idea is you want to get ahead of any kind of document problems before you file the application. And that's where you get a lot of very expensive traps. It's to get ahead and anticipate what the government's going to ask for so that you have the time to go get the document rather than getting a notice and having to gather very difficult to obtain documents within 3 days. Now, if you have any other questions about Florida Medicaid process, I have all these basic videos on this channel about the basic rules. And if you want additional information about the documents required, the first comment, I have a link about how to obtain or get our document list and how to obtain each individual document that's most commonly requested. Thanks so much for watching.